from Wallaby Gold, but I was pretty excited for Saturday.
Yeah, extremely excited. We've been prepping well, and yeah, I'm just excited to give what I got when I come on.
From an individual point of view, though, like not being selected last week, what does that do for hunger and motivation to want to rep them this week?
Obviously, there's motivation to play in every week, but if I'm not selected, I'll just give everything I have on the pitch for the boys and prepare them well for the week.
How do you rate your own sort of individual form supervise when sort of the results weren't there from a Waratahs perspective?
Say again, sorry?
So how do you rate your individual form when the results just weren't there from a team perspective for the Waratahs?
Yeah, I think as an individual I had more to give to the team, especially with the consecutive losses throughout the Tars this year. But just moving on, just rebuilding next year with the new coaching staff and the boys that are staying.
Just learning under sort of Laurie and sort of all the experienced coaches here. I know it's only been 2 weeks, but is there anything particular that just instantly you sort of picked up and just picking their brains and learning from those guys?
Yeah, just those 1% efforts, day in, day out in training, building good habits. I think that's the backbone of what we're building here as a team, and I think that's a success for us moving forward.
Hey Matty, you're a bit of you're an experienced soldier now. How do you feel more comfortable second year with the Wallabies?
Yeah, I'd definitely say the nerves probably a little bit less, particularly just even coming into camp last year opposed to coming into camp earlier. A couple of weeks ago this year, it was a little bit more relaxed, but mate, in no way in my experience, I think on the weekend might have been my 5th or 6th game, so I'm still a youngster in terms of the test arena, but yeah, definitely loving the challenge and finding quite a bit of growth through you guys like Slipper and Taniela, who've been in the ring taking the punches for a couple of years, so those guys have been massively helpful to me.
Consistency was saying that the side struggled with last year. What's it like off the back of a win with the Joe Schmidt environment, and how does he try to bring you guys down a notch perhaps to make sure you do go back to back?
Yeah, I think last week the result was obviously positive. I think it's a small step in the right direction, but for us there's still a massive area of growth for us. It definitely wasn't a polished performance by any means, so we're not getting too ahead of ourselves. It's an awesome beginning to the test season, but for us there's still a lot of things we'd like to work on and hopefully bring that into the game this weekend.
And have you noticed much of a shift between like the language being used, or is it very much the same from week to week?
Hard to say. I think he's quite an experienced head coach, and the language may have changed and may just not notice it. Few subtle changes, I think, and a couple of things we really want to focus on this week, and hopefully that's evident on the field this weekend.
Liam Wright was obviously key for the line out last week. He's out, so how does that dynamic change for you this weekend?
Yeah, so Luke Arnold and Jeremy Williams would probably be our main 2 callers on the field this weekend. Both of them call for their super clubs. I've been lucky enough to sort of play with Luke Arnold previously, and he's a really experienced test player and line out caller, so yeah, it's a real shame Liam Wright's not available this week, but having said that, Charlie Cale's been playing 8 exceptionally well for the Brumbies this year, and so there's been a little back row shuffle, but hoping that we can still provide that consistency at set piece this weekend.
Matt, you described having the sort of multiple line-out calls, just the benefit you get as a hooker, just knowing having that with the multiple sort of jumpers that can sort of have those different combinations at line-out time.
Yeah, time in the saddle is a big thing. So you sort of want those connections during the week. I want to sort of be learning what Luke Hahn's tendencies are like and what he's sort of seeing at line out time. But yeah, it's definitely lucky for us that most of our locks have been callers for their respective super clubs. So we do have a bit of depth in that regard, which is great.
Just Josh Nasser coming off the bench, obviously coming through the Reds. Firstly, how proud are you just to see him after his injury struggles, and can you just describe the relationship you have with him? Yeah, so I first met Nass when we played Schoolboys together, back when he was a tight head actually. Would have been 2015, 2016 I think. And yeah, we've been really close mates ever since. We sort of came through the Queensland pathways together. He transitioned to hooker and was really unfortunate with a few injuries that he had that were back-to-back that sort of put him out of the game for quite long term. His old man is obviously a Wallaby as well, so it's super special for their family. But for me and all the other Queensland boys on a personal note, it's awesome to see Nass achieve what he's potentially going to on the weekend. And yeah, as a close mate of his, I'm stoked.
What was the reaction like when his name was read out?
Yeah, it was a pretty loud ruckus when his name popped up on the projector. Fair few, particularly the Queensland boys who sort of know what he's been through the last few years. Yeah, thoroughly deserved, and all of us are keen to see him take the field this weekend.
Langi, are you preparing to pop up anywhere in the back row, or do you know exactly where you might slot in?
Yeah, I'm not too sure where I'll slot in, but just the intent off the bench. Yeah, that's what I can give.
What are some of the challenges that you found this year when there's, like, you made your test over 22, but there's always expectation? Can you speak of how it can be tough when perhaps sometimes your own desires don't necessarily match the output that's coming on a Saturday?
Say it again, sorry. I'm not sure I understand the question.
Just in terms of, like your form, you said that you probably wasn't quite where it was, but you've been a Wallaby in your third season now. Like, how is it when you're trying to mentally get to a stage where the output kind of matches what you're hoping to achieve?
Yeah, obviously with the tire season this year, I would say the mental aspect of it has been hard, trying to reach form. But I think with what we're building here, it's given me a lot of confidence, especially with the coaches and the boys around me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'm just excited to get stuck in with them.
Matt, how big was last weekend's win for belief for this group? I know it's a new group from last year, and you finished with a win last year, but it was a tough one nonetheless. Like, how big was just getting that win last weekend?
It's an interesting one. So you can probably look at it from two perspectives. In one sense, it's good to get the monkey off your back and get back in the winning circle. But I think probably externally, it's awesome to just sort of get some faith in our supporter base again, get some bums on seats at stadiums, and sort of get everyone on the same direction, or the direction that we're trying to head, which is trying to be a successful test team and represent the nation well. But yeah, I think it's a lot easier to have fun during a week when you're coming off the back of a win opposed to a loss, but that still doesn't mean that we don't preview hard and keep challenging each other at training and continuing to grow. But yeah, it's definitely a small step in the right direction.
And all the talk out of Ireland was Joe Schmidt's quite a kind of intense, kind of cranky dude, you know, like players talking about counting the speed bumps into training, but you know, like they were kind of dreading going to training. Have you seen that? So all we've seen so far is a pretty friendly guy, but have you seen, you know, the intense, serious Joe Schmidt yet? You know?
I think the balance of every good coach is to be able to nurture guys and then also kick them up the arse when it's needed, and I think Joe's got an awesome balance of that. And yeah, I'm not too sure about the ex-players that have been saying that for me, and for all the other boys. I love showing up to training. I'm jumping out of bed every day, keen to get to meetings and get onto the field and learn and try and grow as a team.
What was it like last week when it was a pretty, like 36,000 there? What does that do for the belief, knowing that they all walked away pretty happy, and as you guys did, and hopefully another good crowd this weekend? Yeah,
I think it's awesome for the supporters, and it's also great for us. I remember walking out to warm up and just seeing the sea of gold jerseys in the crowd, and a pretty vocal crowd. Those two choirs, the Welsh choir and the Aussie choir, in opposing end singing and stuff. It was quite a good atmosphere at Allianz on the weekend, and hopefully coming into this weekend it's something similar at Amy Park, mate.